And it was the Heat down 1-0 to the Denver Nuggets. And boy, was this a good one. We started off early with Denver, who started slow. How about the touch pass there to Aaron Gordon?
That baseline is so good to this Nuggets offense when they can get action there when Jokic is able to draw in the middle. But the Heat did a really good job of taking away some of those back cuts.
Let's fast forward to the third, and here comes Big Honey.
Big Honey?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jokic laying it in. You know, he joins LeBron James, Larry Bird as the only players with 500 points, 200 rebounds, 150 assists in a single postseason. Hey, Nuggets were up 8 after 3. We get to the fourth quarter. Oh, the Heat went on a 10-0 run. Gabe Vincent knocked down that 3. He had 23 in this game.
Gabe Vincent was huge, as was Duncan Robinson, who went on a personal 8-0 run in that fourth quarter. Both of these guys understood that they had to be far better than they were in game 1, and they answered the call.
Jimmy Butler knocks down that 3. He had 8 points in the fourth quarter, and the Heat were up 6. Then, how about Kyle Lowry? This one to Bam Adebayo, rolling to the rim. Bam had 21 and 9. Heat up 11 after the free throw, but you knew the Nuggets were going to come back, and they did.
Yeah, Jamal Murray, it doesn't take much for him to get going, finding his range from behind the three-point line. And then this second chance opportunity. This is the connectivity between Jokic and Murray. Big-time baskets at home.
So now the Heat trying to close this thing out. Jimmy Butler, this 3. No, they're up 3. Here is the play that everyone's talking about. The Nuggets could tie it up with a 3. They don't call a timeout. Jamal Murray with it. Jimmy Butler guarding him up. Step back 3. No. And it's the Miami Heat who walk away with a Game 2 victory, 111-108. Jokic, 41 and 11. Jimmy Butler, 21 points, 9 assists. We're all tied up at 1 game apiece.
I just think nobody cares on our team. We're not worried about what anybody thinks. We're so focused in on what we do well and who we are as a group. That's what I think it is. I think it's the I don't give a damn factor.
Now let's talk about effort. I mean, this is the NBA Finals, and we're talking about effort. That's a huge concern of mine. You know, we had guys out there that were just, whether feeling sorry for themselves for not making shots or thinking they can just turn it on or off. This is not the preseason. This is not the regular season. It's not round. This is the NBA Finals. And that to me is really, really perplexing, disappointing.
You know, it definitely seems like Jimmy's got a point when he talked about the Heat not caring. You know, the Heat, 8-point underdog in Game 2, giving them their 10th upset win of the postseason. That breaks a tie with the 2020 Heat, the 95 Rockets, for the most by any team in the last 30 postseasons. Okay, let's bring in everybody here. And Wendy, you were there last night. What did you take away after this? Especially, you hear Coach Malone talking about the Nuggets and the lack of effort.
Yeah, so one of the things that really concerned the Nuggets after Game 1, as good as that game was how many open shots the Miami Heat missed. It was not just the ones that they, you know, the number, but just how open those shots were. I think they had 16 shots that were considered wide open. And they really tried to get onto their team to not expect the Heat to miss those kind of shots again. And then right out of the gate in Game 2, and then especially in the second half, there were those open shots again. And so Mike Malone, it seems to me, really got on his team after this game about that. I was not in the Nuggets locker room. I want to be clear about that. But boy, the vibe was that Malone had really gotten after his team because 3 of his starters, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Aaron Gordon, and Michael Porter Jr., all of them left without speaking to the media. That is not something that you see after Game 2 of a series, maybe after you get eliminated, but there was obviously some emotion that came off of that team last night. And I will say that there might be something to the Heat strategy of letting Jokic go ahead and score all the points, and that he is averaging 41 points this postseason and the Nuggets' losses. Now, if I showed you the numbers, the Nuggets were still great on offense last night. It wasn't like they failed to score just because the Heat sort of forced Jokic into shooting. But there might be something about the Nuggets overall as a team where they're better defensively when everybody's involved, when they have more of a democratic process, because they were a little sluggish defensively last night, and Malone really got into them after the game, and we'll have to see how that plays out going into Game 3.
Herc, what do you think?
Well, one, I hope Mike Malone got on himself because Eric Spoelstra's game plan was just too much for him on both ends of the floor. I thought the adjustment of adding Kevin Love in that starting lineup was huge. And we keep talking, I hear all this stuff about what Denver didn't do defensively. How about the Miami Heat and the way that they played with pace in the half court? The way that guys were cutting to getting guys open shots, the misdirection plays that they played within their offense, the DHOs, making Bam the point center. That was huge. And I just think we underrate what the Miami Heat do offensively, but they do a really great job of it. And it's hard. Just like it's hard to stop Denver offense, it's hard to stop the Heat offense, especially when Duncan Robinson is in the game. Even if he's not shooting the ball, he's able to be a decoy out there on the offensive end. I thought Eric Spoelstra had a perfect game plan defensively. I thought out of timeouts, he made the necessary adjustments or mixed things up for us blitzing Jamal Murray at times, starting Jimmy Butler on Jamal Murray. I was critical of him last night on social media for as Jimmy Butler not getting buckets and being aggressive, but then I had to think about it. He actually took ownership of guarding Jamal Murray on the defensive end. So although we want to discredit and say that the Denver Nuggets need to do this better, the Miami Heat did a whole lot of things better, and Eric Spoelstra had his team ready to play.
It was interesting because it's almost like they said, Jokic, you score, you're not going to be a playmaker. Only 4 assists last night. And after that first time out, we heard the sound. You heard Mike Malone telling his team, hey, look, we're going to get offense. Guys, I need effort out of you.
Yeah, it's the defensive effort that was missing last night. But also on offense, I felt like it was like, oh, we're going to try this back cut. Oh, the Heat are in the way. That's the end of the back cut. And so I think there's multiple efforts that the Nuggets need to make both defensively and offensively. But Duncan Robinson last night, and Perk, I'm glad you brought up what the Heat did, because at halftime, they had pushed the ball up the floor 25 out of 51 possessions, which just spoke to the pace that they were playing with getting into their offense earlier, even though the Nuggets technically had outscored them in transition at that point. But the pace at which they played opened up more lanes for guys to attack. It beat the Nuggets defense up the floor before they could even set up and close up those lanes in the way that we saw in game one. Duncan Robinson, to me, Jeff Van Gundy mentioned it on the call, the way that he has elevated his game over this postseason and broken out of just this shooter role has been terrific for this Miami Heat offense. And so now you're really looking at this series like, will defense travel? Because the Heat have that ability to play defense. They are still living and dying by the three-point line at a high percentage in my mind. But the defense last night was very, very impressive.
Give Eric Spoelstra a lot of credit. Duncan Robinson was a guy who was out of the rotation in the regular season. He has certainly come up big here. He had 10 points in that fourth quarter. Kevin Love got the start yesterday. You see that paid dividends. Of course, at the end of the game, the Nuggets opted not to take that timeout. They pushed the ball up, trying to catch the Heat scrambling. The result was that Jamal Murray missed 3. I want you to listen to what Tim Legler had to say about this on SportsCenter last night.
He got a clean look. Yeah. They're going to say that they're going to live with that. I think down 3, you take advantage of that, having that timeout. That's the whole reason they've got that rule. Advance it. Be about 10 seconds on the clock, probably. Take it inside, out of bounds, and I think you've got more options at your disposal to get what you want.
All right, Perk, you heard Legs. He didn't like it. He wanted a timeout. What do you think?
I have to disagree with Legs on this one. You're down 3. You're dealing with Eric Spoelstra, who, in my opinion, is the best coach in basketball. And you don't want to get a Heat an opportunity to get in a timeout as well and put that defensive personnel out there, because at that point in time, all you have to do is switch everything. And I think we saw that even with the Derek White tip in game 4 was in the last series, was that they did a great job of taking away the three-point shot. Although Marcus Smart got one off, it wasn't the best shot. So you don't want to get a heated opportunity as well. Now look, if you're down 2, if you're down 1 and you're dealing with and you have one timeout, then yeah, I could understand the timeout. Down 3 with Eric Spoelstra on the sideline, I actually like this no timeout by Mike Malone.
Wendy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think ideally you have Murray set up for a shot like that as opposed to trying to create his own. But you're not going to get ideal in the last moments of an NBA game, especially when Eric Spoelstra decides he's not going to foul there. He made the indication to his players, no foul, so you know that you got a chance to get off a three-pointer. I thought there was a number of reasons why the Nuggets didn't win this game. This was not one of them, in my opinion.
Jamal Murray's generally been their closer.
Yeah.
What do you think? When you think about just, hey, look, let's letting them go. Let's try to catch these guys scrambling.
Well, if you watch that play back, you see Malone on the sideline giving them one of these, right? And I can't remember if I think it was Bruce Brown that initially gets this rebound. To me, there was an opportunity for Bruce Brown to push. Like this 2 seconds or so that's gonna be wasted here while they're trying to like figure it out. To me, you move a little bit faster and maybe you see, Jimmy goes to find Jamal. So to me, if you're moving a little bit faster, maybe you create a slightly better look while the Heat haven't yet matched up. But I was okay with it. I didn't love it, but I understand why you go ahead and you let that one rock.
You see, when we talked about this, Jokic had just 4 assists and had 14 in game 1. You think that's the key?
Jokic as a facilitator is much more dangerous as far as this series is concerned than Jokic as a scorer. And I don't think that last night was an aberration. I think, Wendy, you brought up the stats in terms of when Jokic has scored 40 points or more. The swing to me is going to be, where are the Heat as far as three-point shooting, sincerely? Are they game 1's team or are they game 2's team? Like, what's the middle ground in terms of how they're going to perform from the three-point line?
Listen, we're going to talk a whole lot more about this NBA Final Game 2, not only this hour, next hour as well. Hey, but coming up, much more on the game. Nuggets head coach, he gave his team an F for effort. One of the Denver's players, he used a different F word. We'll get into that as well. Plus, how about a KC dynasty? Just how many more Super Bowls will Patrick Mahomes win? Travis Kelce has a prediction about his QB, and you're going to hear about it next. It's Get Up here on ESPN.